Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to another episode of Fans of the Boys. We are, of course, diving into our second dropped episode, but really fourth episode in the season. Nothing like it in the world. Joining me, as always, we have coming from the middle of the country and the middle of your screen, it's Mr. Rob Stone.
What is up, everybody? Can't wait to talk about another pretty nutty episode.
Indeed, indeed. And of course, on the east side of the screen, from the East Coast himself, Mr. Don Willie.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm so glad to be back again talking about the boys with the boys.
Indeed, indeed. First things off is as I did last week, and just want to give you a heads up, I'm working off of my phone internet. It's running a little bit better than my home internet right now, as there are currently the Bobcat fire burning right up in the mountains behind and to the east of me. So, kind of big shout out to the first responders, firefighters, and the prison firefighter population that are rarely talked about and have really been busting their butt, risking big risks alongside the regular firefighting crew to currently, at the moment, try and save Mount Wilson Observatory, a historic landmark here in Southern California. So, thank you to all of them. And hopefully, we'll be able to get this thing under control, and I'll be able to see the sun one of these days. Uh, in the meantime, yeah, we are talking about the second episode of The Boys this season, or like I said, the second dropped episode, the fourth actual. Nothing like it in the world, where the team does a bit of a road trip, a little split up, and we get some story resolution, and as always, some things sort of revealed for us. So let's start off with Dawn. Dawn, what did you think about this week's episode? Anything kind of really stand out for you? Any big points, low points? What's your opinion on Nothing Like It in the World?
Well, I would definitely have to say that Anthony Starr, Anthony Starr is proving time and again that he deserves an award for his portrayal of Homeland. Uh, Listen, I've been telling people, since last week, but really after this episode, I'm like, Homelander is the guy that if he came and knocked on the door right now, I would hope to have a heart attack before he got the chance to kill me. Uh, because it's just the way that he has this demeanor about him that without saying much is just a threatening presence, this ominous thing that just looms above you, just waiting to drop the hammer at any moment. And what he did this week to members of his team, just wow, wow. And even when he brought himself kind of to his lowest point, because he's still the man in the public eye, but he's just not as popular as he would like to be, and that's the thing that kind of drove him off the edge, to have him be like, you know what, no, things must change now. And I'm really afraid for what Homelander could possibly do in the future now that he, after his last conversation with Stormfront, um, where he wants to re-strategize now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he what she said got to him about, yeah, you don't need the entire country because you can't win them anyway. Just find the people who are going to be the most loyal to you that you can mobilize and go after them, target them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wonder what new Homelander is going to be like. After he's come to kind of uh, uh, embrace that ideology.
Right. Well, yeah,
Um,
I think they show a lot of him. Last season you got to see sort of the little dark side of him. I think here you're seeing him like on the psychological edge. He's teetering, he's moving, he's pushing towards extremes. And I think you're a perfect point. He's so much more frightening now. He was kind of scary last time because he could do stuff. Now he's like really terrifying.
yeah, you know, and then obviously, there was the revelation about Stormfront, which is something that we kind of speculated on last week.
Mm-hmm.
Starlight and Huey was adorable. Frenchie and Kamiko almost was adorable, except for the fact that he was high and decided to make a move at the wrong time.
Sure.
Mother's Milk. Man, that's Mother's Milk is absolutely hilarious, and we got a lot of his backstory that we never knew. And then finally, Billy Butcher finally gets reunited with Becca, and things go about as well as you would expect. Honestly speaking, things went a lot better for the both of them than I expected. I expected it to end badly sooner. So yeah. Oh, and then there was the Deep.
Sure. And I definitely want to spend a little bit more time jumping into both the Butcher thing, and I want to talk about the little mini, I don't know, quick thing that was released on Twitter before last week's episode that was sort of tying in between season 1 and season 2. I want to touch on that, but I don't think it'll take too much. Rob, what about yourself? How are you feeling about this week's episode? Just for anybody that hasn't been able to actually catch your review over on Smirking Gun Reviews.
Well, I actually didn't do a review. I took a little bit of a break for this last week. The only thing I did was Lovecraft Country. And I made a comic book review yesterday. I just needed to take a break and just I go. But I watched it. I just literally finished watching it again right before we started talking. I like this episode. It's a little predictable to me. Some stuff was like there. It was just I could just see where it was all going. But I like that we were wrapping up. We were dealing with the fallout of the first 3 episodes, and then ramping up for what we're going to be for the last parts of the back end of this, because this is really kind of like right about in the middle now, almost, where we're setting up all the conflicts that are going to be blowing up by the end of this season. And I can't turn up my mic any further. Whoever is telling me.
I think that's me. I'm sorry, everyone, if I have been a little low on you. Let me try and fix that.
But I especially liked what they were doing with the boys here. How they're dealing with things. Because after those 3 episodes, a lot happened to them emotionally. They really got really close to getting wiped out. If it wasn't for Kamiko's brother giving them an opportunity to bounce, they probably would have all been caught and captured. So you got, Frenchie coping the way that he always does, and you got Mother's Milk, who's now getting, leadership thrust upon him by Butcher. You got Huey trying to deal with the fact that, Starlight's back in his life for the moment, and not understanding that, just because she's here doesn't mean you can just go right back into things. And then you got Butcher himself, who gets exactly what he wanted and then realizes that it's not going to be just that easy. But that, to me, was the most predictable part of this episode, was him going down there to Becca. That was just way too easy, way too early. It was great that he got the information, but it was more to I feel like, set up more about his character than anything else. Otherwise, I thought it was a really good episode. It's just like I said, it's a lot of story and not a lot of huge moments. Just a lot of there's a lot of stuff that happens, but like it to me, I was mostly about the information that I liked and the character development more than any kind of huge moment. Like Homelander talking about diversity to Maria Menounos and how he dealt with that, and just Maeve sitting there quietly, like just listening to this man who she can't, what is she going to do? She's trapped sitting on that couch and he can say whatever he wants. And he says like the worst possible thing for her. And, it shows again that fear that you have, that it's not just that he can kill you. It's just that he doesn't care like what damage he does, psychologically or to you professionally. Like, does Maeve worry about what that means for her? Like, as a superhero, will people stop liking her? Will she be harassed after this? We saw what happened to characters in books like The Watchmen and things like that, who were, same-sex partners and things that, it's just, having that power taken away from you is devastating, even if it's just information about your private life. It's like nothing is safe with Homelander. And yeah, Anthony Starr, it's a testament. Like I haven't been felt this kind of menace or hated a character so much since like Joffrey. And that was just a little kid, but then you could say in a way that he behaves like a little kid. In a lot of manners, he's a grown up child.
Well, certainly his relationship with Stillwell has that whole creepy child lover thing, and even goes up higher on this one. So
has anybody noticed, and I brought it up in my first review, that something that Anthony Starr does with his face, sometimes he just is talking normal, but there's something that's going on with his mouth area where it almost feels like he's doing, you guys remember Brando and The Godfather, how he had that kind of puffed out? Sometimes his mouth feels like whenever he's getting like upset, it feels like it changes shape almost. It's really weird. And it means nothing. It's probably just nothing at all. But I notice it happening all the time where he gets these little almost facial tics.
I think that's kind of him like flexing the muscles around the jaw, like to kind of show his. It's like him clenching his teeth, but then he also flexes the muscles right around here.
Yeah,
and that's definitely something I noticed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's his physicality. You can see that that's sort of like he's biting his tongue, he's holding back, he's, figuring things out. He's trying to keep that face that the world sees so much, while he's like, oh, really? I'm gonna secretly kill you shortly, but you won't see it coming. Okay, now.
And Frank here brings up something that I actually was thinking about this second time watching it, is Black Noir's involvement in trying to find Butcher. I wondered that myself, Frank, about maybe possibly switching sides. I doubt it, but it was something that I kind of thought about because he was really emotionally hit by the reveal of the Compound V thing. He was sitting there on the floor crying. So maybe he's looking, maybe he just, it could just be as basic as he just wants to kill everybody violently. Or maybe there is something else going on there that maybe he, does feel betrayed and wants to reach out to the boys. But who knows? I would say that it's more towards killing them, but it's an interesting thing. I thought about that myself.
Well, that's the other nice thing is we are seeing kind of interesting reverberations from the Compound V reveal. Is it is sort of hitting each of the heroes, each of the soups differently. If they weren't expecting it, they're feeling betrayed. The Deep is going through his whole identity crisis. Noir was obviously very well affected. Maeve is now with her girlfriend. Is it possible that there might be an exit out of this life through all of that? A train is going out. his rival is stepping in. So I mean, they're really shaking up a lot of kind of everyone's perception and everyone's sort of reaction to this the Compound V reveal. So I didn't read the comics, so I don't know exactly where the storyline might be going. But I could certainly imagine them doing interesting twists with Black Noir and possibly having some sort of reveal off of that, or a secondary. Why is he hit so hard?
Real quick, I don't think A Train is actually out.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, that's what Homelander originally told him, but they brought up something that I wasn't expecting to see. And I was, what the hashtag heroes so white, which I was like, okay, this seems a
Oh, yeah.
little ridiculous, but all right, let's see where they're going with this. And look, he said on TV, yeah, A Train is a part of the Seven, so I think against Homelander's wishes, he might have actually had to keep him.
Right. Which again we're seeing a lot with Homelander flexing his muscle, flexing his muscles in many ways, trying to remake the Seven as he wishes to see it, and now all of the other heroes again sort of fighting back and trying to figure out where it is they want to be. So I wouldn't even be surprised if A Train had something behind the Heroes So White bit pushing all of that. So, he's got contacts.
He does, and he seems like a social media savvy kind of person. I mean, obviously, the most social media savvy out of all of them is Stormfront, but if anyone, A Train at least seems like he would be, like he seems like one of those people that's kind of all into uh, uh, whatever Vaught's version of Instagram or TikTok is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think so. As we sort of saw last week with his, when he was talking about you never mess with the money, and only people that have come from money or have money say that. You can see where he is. He's always maneuvering to try and stay on top and keep himself relevant. In fact, that's probably his primary job in his mind. Heroism is just a way to achieve that. So I would believe that he would have several tricks up his sleeve and ways to move and contacts and things to push. Because otherwise, he knows he's got nothing to lose. If he gets on to B or C level hero, he's going to disappear out into the darkness just like Popclaw did.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, let's get into the big Liberty question, because that was a big chunk of this episode. I do want to touch on Butcher. We'll do that right after this. But let's talk about, some of our boys. Obviously, we have Frenchie and Kimiko trying to work out their relationship bit. Kimiko more looking for revenge. Frenchie maybe pushing a little too hard on the relationship point. Then, of course, we got Mother's Milk, Huey, and Annie heading off on the big road trip to go and hunt down Liberty. And like you were mentioning, learning a lot about Mother's Milk. And I did have one question after all of his stories. Is he telling the truth? Did you get that these were all the actual stories? Because he was sort of telling little different stories to everybody, and I wasn't sure if they were all necessarily hooking up or if that's just sort of Mother's Milk's gift, is just connecting with people.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was I was asking myself the same question, especially when he showed up at the woman's door and told her about how his father used to be a lawyer. Um, I mean, it seemed convenient, but that was a lot of detail for uh, a story that was made up on the spot. So, I honestly speaking, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be suspicious on him. It was just one of those things. There is even a shot of Huey. I think at one point, I think maybe while he was telling that story, where he was almost thinking like, "Is this right?" I mean, he did mention afterwards, "I didn't know that about your father." Like it was a connection point. So maybe I'm reading it entirely wrong. But I was just kind of wondering. It's like maybe that's Mother's Milk's kind of little gift. I like his authenticity. It's the boys, man. I'm expecting something else with every little move.
Well, he did work with the kids and the guys in prison. He's used to trying to connect with people, trying to bring himself, share part of his life with people, and I think that making those kind of connections is part of it. I feel like if it's a lie or some form of a lie, like maybe there's a bunch of truth in there, but there's like a lie hidden in there somewhere.
Sure.
A lie hidden between two truths. Maybe it wasn't quite as obvious as it was. Maybe he likes to. Maybe part of it's like a story he'd like to believe, but not all of it is true. Definitely, like you could see a conversation happening. Like, look, here's the real deal. Everything about that was true, but and then lay out the real facts. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened, but I think it was mostly genuine because the detail and the on the spotness of the whole thing just felt like it's something that he doesn't like talking about, but the door was closing and they had to get answers.
Right. And in a
And
way,
like Homelander finally, or no, Butcher finally telling them about Becca when forced. Like he was about to lose all, they were completely walking away from him, and he finally had to tell the truth. We could be looking at something like that.
right. Yeah. Again, it was just one of those things that sort of caught my mind while I was watching the show. But on the other hand, this is kind of the perfect time to get that further reveal into the boys, into Mother's Milk. We get a little bit more of his background to find, illuminate a few more things. We got his family last season, and here we're seeing sort of where he came from. I'm sure we'll probably another 2 episodes get a little bit more on Frenchie at some point. But he really was, I think, like I said, his discussion with was it Valerie when he finally arrives up. I mean, throughout the episode, whether it be his conversation with Butcher about Butcher leaving to go after Becca, and is this really going to be the end? Is he coming back or not? To each of the little talks with Annie and with Huey and with Valerie, Mother's Milk's really kind of the emotional heart of the team. And I think it was great that he was able to kind of guide all of these little moments, even trying to keep Huey in line with Annie, uh, which I love the idea when they got the room. So I guess with Mother's Milk, good choice. Yes. So, so anyway, yeah, let's just get to the big Liberty bit because I think that was kind of while the rest of the journey was kind of fun between Annie and Starlight. I think really it was the big story that Valerie tells Mother's Milk about who Liberty was back in the 1970s, and much like we see in the headlines today, and certainly has happened in parts of this country for many years. Brother was just picked out by a psychopathic, racist Liberty and murdered in front of her, and then having it all covered up and shushed away. More to the point on that, of course, is that Liberty is Stormfront. And like we were discussing last week, not an unexpected reveal, but certainly does spread the ideas of the fact that this is 40 years, 50 years later, and she looks exactly the same. Is that another thing of Stormfront's powers? Or is this a special compound V thing? We know about its capacity to heighten your powers when overused. Um, I don't know, guys. What's your thoughts on Dom? Let's actually start with you. What's your thought on the whole Liberty reveal and where she's coming from.
I mean, well, okay. Well, first off, uh, got to comment on the fact that even in um, this particular fictional setting, when they're driving towards this place, they have a mural of Homelander, and the cape has a Confederate flag. So, I mean, that kind of tells you a little bit about the ideologies of the particular area that they were going to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then to for the woman to tell her story about this is what happened to my brother. They gave us $2,000. That's all his life was worth. And then she kind of got scared and was just like, no, 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 you guys got to go because um, I don't want Liberty finding out that you guys were here and I talked to you. And then when you get the reveal, I mean, again, yeah, not surprising to us, but to the team, it's one of those things like, wait, hold on. We just thought the compound V gives you powers. What do you mean that you have someone who's possibly over 70 years old and looks like just about any millennial walking around right now? So obviously it deepens the mystery as to uh, how she's able to have been alive for this long and
Mm-hmm.
still remain so young. There's also a thing of how much does Vought know, the current regime of Vought, because if she's been around for all this time, um, I'm pretty sure only people at the highest levels know anything about the fact that she's still the same person. And then, it's like, what is Vaught's current agenda for having her show up now?
See, I think that's really the key because one, Stan Edgar's the one that brought her in, put her on the 7. He's been around forever. He knows about the whole Compound V development and stuff over the years. He obviously wants her and her army, because I doubt that he doesn't know where she's about and where she's coming from and who she used to be. So yeah, why would he would is this just sort of keep battles going on so that they stay relevant? Is he trying to split things up? Is he trying to put out a bad guy that then he can have a good guy come and take over? Because again, I don't get Stan Edgar as someone who hasn't thought 15 moves in advance.
Yeah, and you know what? I just think I thought of one of the moves.
Okay.
Stan Edgar is Vought.
I'm sorry, say again?
Stan Edgar is Vought.
Okay. Now, like has he just taken this person? You say he's taken this personality? Has he changed the way that he looks?
I think, yeah, I think he's changed the way that he looks. He let people think that he's dead, and Stan Edgar is Vought.
Okay.
And that just popped in my head just now because, again, this this was Stan Edgar's idea to bring uh, out Stormfront.
Yeah.
Stormfront is now publicly the face of the opposition, but privately she's working in Vaught's interest, and it just seemed kind of weird now that I'm thinking about it that randomly uh, he had that conversation with Homelander about the Vought founder.
Mm-hmm. And again, pointing the whole pharmaceutical point of the company, not the superhero point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. So I mean, listen, I'm known for tinfoil, but I was right about other things that just randomly popped into my head, and I just have this feeling that because think about it like this too, right?
I think it's
If,
important to swing big. Go ahead. Yeah.
if she is this big time racist, why in the world would she be listening to Stan Edgar, who is either black or Hispanic or something? Like Stan Edgar is obviously not white, as far as we
Yeah.
can tell, right?
Yeah.
But yet she, is brought in by him and is most likely under his orders.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of questions right there.
Right. So I think the only reason why she would ever listen to him is because he's Vaughn.
Okay. All right. All right.
And this is just
Rob,
that he's taken on.
Rob, you got any thoughts on these total wild speculation bits of ours?
That's a really good one, actually. First, I want to bring up during the conversation, like the woman who played Valerie, Dawn Lewis, from the Cosby Show spinoff, A Different World. Haven't seen her in forever. It was really cool to see her.
Man, I
in this.
thought you looked familiar. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to
Nice.
just give her a shout out because that was really awesome. Well, the thing, we've talked about this, and that's a really great idea. But like, why? So you figure this was a thing, right? There was public, they were worried about the publicity of a white superhero in the 70s killing a black person. Even though they weren't going to believe her, they took enough to try to buy her off, just like everybody else does, right? So then what happens to Liberty in that situation? Why did she just kind of disappear? And I think it's like a company thing, right? You get into trouble and they don't just, they, like with the Deep, they moved him away.
Right.
Like a priest, who got involved with something. They just move you to a different place. So you get into a whole new city instead of being part of the Seven. It's your little slap in the wrist. So what did they do with her? Where did she go? I feel like it's probably something along the lines of putting her on ice, maybe literally, or some sort of reconditioning. Is she even aware that she's, was Liberty?
Okay.
Like I just because would you want her to know? Wouldn't she be thinking, are people going to recognize me? Is somebody going to recognize me from back then? She also kind of sounded a little different, just a little bit different when they did the flashback. It didn't quite sound like the actress. In fact, the first time I heard her voice, I actually thought it was Butcher's contact. What's her name? Matt.
The one who
Mallory.
Explode. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually sounded like her to me for a second, but I know it's not. But so what did they do? Like, does she know that she was Liberty? Where did she go? Why, do they do this to other heroes where they just put you on ice until they need you? Could they do that to other people? Because I think this would go off of really well off of what you're saying about if Edgar is Vought. How many secrets do they have been, quietly put somewhere? Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because I'm watching in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, season 3, where the ATCU was putting Inhumans in stasis, basically, and putting them like just in a closet, like for just storing them up there. Who's to say that Vought couldn't have their own version of that for soups that go too far? And they go, well, we've got money invested in this person. We don't want to just get rid of them. Let's wait until we can find a use for them. And hey, guess what? We need this right now. We can bring them out of hibernation or whatever they're doing. Maybe it's even just a psychiatric hospital that they keep, like a secret place to, where they lobotomize you maybe, or in some way, or some kind of mental conditioning. That's where I would go with it. I definitely think that Don's onto something with Edgar, but I'm more interested in. Well, I'm not more interested. I'm also interested in why Liberty is now Stormfront, and what did they do with Liberty in between all those years? Because I don't know if her powers would necessarily keep her from aging, but if they put you on ice,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
that's
actually,
something else.
that's brilliant. And I hadn't, I had thought that they would just, they maybe have moved her on kind of like the Witness Protection Agency, the Hero Protection Agency. We move you to a new town, we give you a new superhero identity, and we sort of travel on, and maybe she causes enough problems. She's moved from city to city. Uh, I love your idea though that she was just put on ice. I'm wondering how they figured out some sort of immortality. But in the meantime, if they just were able to put her on ice for a while, okay, you've caused too much problem. We're going to put you out for 10, 20 years. We'll bring you back, then give you a new name, send you up to Portland and establish yourself that way.
Yeah, like Demolition Man.
Yeah. Now, if they were to lobotomize and remove her memory, that would be great. It would be sad that she's still racist.
Yeah.
Remove your identity, but racism goes right down to the core of you. You know, that would be kind of a sad, I think, little thing. But I do I do like that idea that they might have been kind of on edge. It would certainly make a lot more sense into why she hasn't been recognized by anyone else. And where she's been this entire time if they were just kind of like freezing him. I love that idea.
Well, look, I got two things.
Yeah.
So one, I do think that she is fully aware of who she is, and that nothing happened to her as far as mental reconditioning. And I say that only because when she was talking to Homelander, and she was telling him about his tactics not being right for when they're living in, she told him, you got to get with the times, or you have to change with the times. And she says, Lord knows I have.
Yeah.
And another very interesting thing, talking about her powers, something that Valerie says, she said, I should have known. She said, I should have known that she was going to be there because I could smell it in the air. I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, and you got to think, if her powers are supposed to possibly be weather manipulation, I mean, it could also, how people say they can smell when it's going to rain.
Sure, like an ozone pickup or some kind of telltale thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a thing too that somebody might want it picking up later on about her. Like maybe that'll be a thing that Kamiko might pick up on.
All right.
Yeah, and Frank talking about here in the chat about her powers, and maybe she has new powers than she had before. Can they swap out your powers? Can they give you more powers? Can they basically say we need this? Let's do that. I don't know. That's another interesting idea because Liberty, we know she hits really hard. That's one thing for sure.
Right.
And that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I didn't remember seeing the same kind of like lightning flight as she had before. Is that right? So she's power-wise seemed slightly different. So yeah, that would be kind of an interesting thing if they're swapping out. And again, because of Edgar's push on we're a pharmaceutical company, how long that they have been working for this, you would think that Vought doesn't just want a compound that gives people random superpowers. They would love a compound that gave somebody exactly the superpowers that they wanted. Ultimately, right?
Makes sense.
So that could be one of those things. Maybe they put them to sleep, and it takes a while for us to suck out your old powers and put in new ones, and then we keep you on ice, give you a new identity, new power set. You look the same, but everything else about you is different. And that would probably lay in, I think, Great Dawn with your Edgar is Vought idea that they just sort of swapped him out. New body, new positioning, new something, and boom, there he goes.
Or this makes me think of the babies that they found in season 1. And one of them had the eye powers that Homelander has. What about clones?
Ah, see, that's a whole nother idea that they could be diving into that you might see. And that would also explain a lot. If Stormfront is a clone, yeah, but you're right. She did still do the kind of like change with the times idea that didn't imply that she was still around. So,
I mean, yeah, but you know what though? She could be a clone implanted with all of Liberty's memories, though, too.
very true.
You know, so for her, you know, she's still the same person inside, even though, you know, she might be a clone. She might not even be aware that she's a clone.
And that's just, like we could get really conspiracy about
Yeah,
all
we're
this,
going
because
to.
I was thinking about comic books and stuff and how the heroes, they just keep going. Superman is still Superman from the very beginning till now. Well, in a company that actually, creates superheroes, wouldn't you always want there to be a Homelander? Wouldn't you want there always to be a Queen Maeve? Wouldn't you want, like, basically, instead of doing like Golden Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, they just literally have backups that they can always roll out so that, they'll never ever not go without these heroes. Almost
Sure.
like an IP, that you just keep, except in a person.
That would make a lot of sense. I mean, ultimately, because they would want to have of course, our heroes can't be killed. Even if one gets killed, we have a replacement one that's sort of standing by. Obviously, everyone, welcome to the boys speculation talk. That's what we're diving into this afternoon. Awesome. Let's see. Frank Cardinal, yes, he's compound VI, DNA based powers. So, yeah, could be a combination of the two of those coming into play, I think would be a most likely candidate. All right. Well, I'm going to take a little break here for a moment and want to thank Frank, Rena Mercenary X84. Sorry, I need my glasses. For joining us live in the chat today. And thank all of you who are watching this here in the archives. If you are enjoying this, please go ahead, press that like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. We're here throughout the rest of the run of the boys. And then, of course, we will be right back doing maybe a brief talk of The Walking Dead, but definitely returning for Fandalorians. The Fandalorians. That's the three of us right here when The Mandalorian returns at the end of October. Hopefully, you guys have caught the trailer that actually dropped this morning, giving us a further glimpse into what to expect in season 2. Mandalorian on the run, Baby Yoda, the child in tow. Possible glimpse of Ahsoka, though I've got seen a few people thinking that might have been Sabine Wren in the cloak that we saw there in the background. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff. I haven't watched it enough times to be able to quote everything that happened in that, but real brief before we jump back to Billy Butcher. Rob, what did you think of the Mandalorian season 2 trailer this morning?
I actually just know about it. I saw it playing in the background. I was refusing to have anything spoiled for me.
Okay.
It was something that I saw on my Twitter feed. And I try to just stay away from trailers for the most part, irregardless. I saw what I did see, what I allowed myself to see and not hear. I didn't have the volume on. The images looked cool. I saw, X-wings and stuff. I mean, I'm fine with it. I want to go into this like completely. So when we do our fan shows or my reviews, I don't have anything built up like, oh, I hope this or, oh, I hope that. I know certain things are going to happen. I know certain people are going to be in it. We got more Giancarlo Esposito.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
nice
we, carrying on that, it's all good. I just brought it up because because I saw
I
it on there.
admire your purity there, Rob. I hear you. There's a lot of times where I might watch the first or second trailer and then I avoid any other ones because inevitably they do start to spoil things. Don, then real quick, any reaction to the Mandalorian season 2 trailer?
Yeah, this is the way.
Okay. Excellent. Like I said, this will be the way right here on D's Reviews, end of October for The Fandalorians.
But I
All
didn't
right.
watch the trailer, but you do know that I'm getting ready. You saw
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
getting some stuff ready. So
Rob is leading the charge here in the Mandalorian appreciation, right? With the rest of us, I think have to step up. I'm definitely going to need to. So I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to make this fun, everyone. This is going to be a blast. All right, so let's get back. We're running a little long on this, but I totally love that conversation, so I got no problem with it. But I know that we do want to talk a little bit about Billy Butcher. Because of course this one he gets back to Becca. We get the whole thing that happens with that. But real quick before we do that, last week we had a brief little short put out on Twitter that sort of was supposed to cover what happened between season 1 and season 2 with William Butcher, between when we last saw him check it out, Becca, and then appearing in a parking lot, to reappearing with the boys in a lovely tracksuit. So, Dawn, I want to start with you because you were the one that wanted to see the link between season 1, season 2. What was Billy Butcher doing? And what'd you think about what he was doing?
I found it interesting. When he shows up at the other British guy's house, I thought that was his brother. Because I mean, they cast somebody that looks a little bit like Carl Urban. Especially with the beard and all that. But I was like, oh man, you got Butcher's brother.
Yeah.
Until he called the police on him, and I was like, oh no, that's definitely not Butcher's brother.
Not much of a mate.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Yeah, because like I said, I was wondering, what happened when Homelander dropped him off from me, because in the show, Homelander drops him off. He goes to that Italian restaurant,
right?
On the news, and then the next thing you know, we see him and he's with the team. So, how the hell did he even get back there? Where was he? So I mean, I'm glad they actually had some content to fill that in. I'm pretty sure that was probably originally part of the episode, and they were probably like, oh, you know what? No, this doesn't really go with the flow of the episode. It breaks things up. All right, just it's already shot. Just release it as a side kind of thing. So I'm glad that they made this.
Okay, Rob, do you have a thought on the Butcher short?
well, I saw everybody's reaction to it before I watched it. I waited till today, actually. And in fact, if you hadn't put it in the outline, I probably would have forgotten completely. It's a deleted scene.
Yeah.
And it just, I can see that they were just, we like having that information, but they probably were like, we'd like to just drop him in cold rather than show where he's been, what he's been doing. And it's, like maybe slows down the episode. And it's a good moment for Butcher. It shows what Butcher will do, to even his closest people, anybody that gets in his way. And in that respect, I liked it. Did I need it? No. Because it feels like it was a real, as much as the guy, if you've been betrayed by somebody like that, it felt like a little too harsh. Like they're trying to humanize Billy Butcher on the show much more than they do in the books. And
Right.
seeing him choke out his best friend was probably not the best way to have him come back after a murder. And seeing it as it's definitely going to be in the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. They might
Sure.
put it back in if you want it. They can do anything nowadays. Where would you just like to have all the scenes put back in? Or director's cuts or things like that. Amazon could start releasing the director's cuts, the extended cuts of the boys, pay an extra $3-4.
The urban cut.
And Carl Urban's great and everything, and I did like that, but again, it was pretty predictable. It was as soon as he walked in the door, it was like, well, he's probably this isn't going to end well.
No.
Because if it ended well, why would he need to come back? So.
Well, that was the thing. I was kind of excited to see what had happened in between. And I had the same reaction. I didn't think it was his brother, but I was like, oh, obviously, military buddy. They show the picture there. This is great. But it did feel very quickly like, oh, this guy's going to betray him. And then Butcher kills him to show, like you said, how far he'll grow, what his intent is. But to me, it also didn't make a lot of sense. This is his old mate that he's running into now, but he didn't know that Butcher was married. I mean, Becca's been gone for 8 years. He was married before that. He had never reached out, but he just shows up on the door now. And then he says he's looking for Becca, but he already doesn't show her the map information and the house and the time of day and the little notes that he had taken off. It all felt very, I don't know, to me, like you said, like a deleted scene. It was like, I could see where you wanted to tell a little story here, but it's totally pointless. It doesn't really tell me anymore. It doesn't shine any larger light on anything. And I didn't need to know where he got the tracksuit. That was not, it's like Han Solo's dice. I was never interested in that. I didn't know about it before. I don't care now. So, it's my harsh.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see everything that they intended to put in, but in editing they have to like make choices of what's best for the story, and I think that leaving that out was necessary as much as it's Carl Urban's great in that scene. The other guy was great in that scene. It just didn't really fit with what they were trying to do because he shows up at the end of the episode. It's supposed to be a surprise. So if we see that part, it's not a surprise. It's, you know what I mean? Like
right.
Him coming down the, throwing the guy down the stairs isn't as much as a surprise. I think they wanted him to have that kind of entrance rather than see him, kill a guy and then show up like, hi guys.
Right. All right. Fair enough. All right. So obviously this does link back to Butcher's big mission for this week, which is reconnecting with Becca, which, thanks to Mallory, actually gets which I thought was actually a very sweet scene when she's talking about this recurring nightmare of being on stage with all the faces, the people that the Soups have died with, and she's trying to get some, one of those voices to stop staring, one of those faces to stop staring at her. I thought that was kind of a great human scene with them. But yeah, so Billy gets the address, heads out, takes a Charlie Bronson rope, throws it over, climbs into the Vought facility, and finally reconnects with Becca. We've been waiting for this for a season and a half now, which was a sweet scene. Really, the two of them were great together. It was a wonderful reunion, and I loved him hiding in the car. Is there a place around that doesn't have cameras? I mean, it was very Billy Butcher, very awesome. But also very bittersweet because by the end, she's not with him for, I think, some very legitimate reasons. Are we seeing just the results of Billy's hatred, how his obsession ends up costing him the family that he was trying to get back, or is this because we kind of needed to wrap this up so we could get Billy back to the Soups and have him less distracted on the show? it could be both reasons. Um, Rob, what do you think?
Well, like I said, it was he was never leaving with her. That was a bait and switch completely, or a red herring, or however you want to put it. Um, what was interesting was the why. I thought it was just going to be straight up. I got a kid. If I leave with you and the kid, Homelander will never stop looking for us.
It's a good enough reason by itself. Yeah.
But it was about Butcher instead of that. And I honestly don't. I mean, they wrote it in a way to so that he admits kind of like that feeling, but I don't know if that's like it felt like it was they purposely wrote that for the character to have to go through this change, that they want Billy Butcher to go down this road of not being so angry and trying to resolve some of his issues rather than, and so they put that on the character. I think that the other one would have been obvious and legitimate, and they decided to go another way with it.
Well, it does
Also, I
start.
wouldn't be surprised if Vought still knew that Butcher was there, but just decided not to do anything about it. I can just see Edgar sitting there like Gus Fring on his laptop with his little video cameras, looking in on them and going, "Not yet. Let's see where this goes." And just being like, and then he can bring it up to her later on. Like, did you think that we didn't know what you were doing? Did you think we could have killed him at any time? Kind of like to press the deal on her later. But I did think it was an interesting take on that she brought up that he didn't like kids. He says it's not that. It's more like that he doesn't like soups. And honestly, if my wife had a kid with her rapist, it would be a bone of contention with anyone. Even in the real life, if you like, as much as you wouldn't want to take it out on the child, psychologically that messes with it would mess with anybody's head.
Sure.
So I thought it was good. I think they're setting the character on again a path to pulling himself out of the darkness somehow. Now, honestly, I don't know how I feel about that because I want Billy Butcher to basically be Negan here with the Scoops. Okay, I want old school Negan Billy, like Billy Butcher to channel that, that kind of swagger and not take any prisoners. I don't know if I want a kinder, softer Billy Butcher. So whatever. I'm sure they'll do something interesting with it, so that by the end of the show we might see some kind of growth, but not right now. I need him to. Yeah, I think it's a good way to get him back with the boys and do what he's got to do, and not worry so much about the kid and the woman that he left behind, because they're fine. They're fine right now as long as they toe the Homelander line.
Right.
They're not going anywhere. She's safe. What's not safe is how he could react to it and bring even more down on them.
And I think you bring up an interesting point here, where in a way, as this wraps up this one little arc for him, it does start another now as an internal redemption. Is his hatred for Soups all encompassing, or can he look that there's a good side to it? We'd say that Annie might be a representation of that, who Butcher is not very much supportive of, and yet is repeatedly trying to do the right thing. So that would be kind of an interesting point to kind of wrap up Becca for the moment, and yet still give her as a motivation for Billy Butcher to at least beat back one of his demons. John, you got any thoughts on that?
He's a soup freak. Oh man! I mean, look, you were waiting
So
for
harsh.
the line. You were waiting for the line. You knew he was going to say it at some point. Again, I agree with Rob. I don't think that most men would take too kindly to raising their wife's rapist child. And then on top of that, like he already I mean, it's not even just that the kid is soup. It's that it's Homelander's kid. You
Yeah,
know, if it was some random super powered person that had done it, and they just didn't know who he was,
right.
then maybe it might not have stung so badly. But I mean, like, it's so up close and personal for him.
Well, it would be a constant reminder. I mean, right
Yeah.
there.
Um, and not even just a constant reminder. It's the fact that you know she went along with this. She was very complicit, and she even says, like, I'm not the person that you think I am. You put me on this pedestal talking about how I saved you. It's like, no, 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 no.
Never had any idea what to do with you.
Yeah, you made up this fantasy in your own mind about who I am. And she, like she said, when Homelander raped her and she found out that she was pregnant, she didn't go to Billy. And in fact, when Homelander raped her, she never came back home. She never came back home. Homelander raped her. She stumbled out of that hotel room, went to vault, and never came back. And when she found out that she was pregnant,
Mm,
she might have, been able to do it and
I think actually she did come home because there was that one scene between Billy and her where he is pushing like, "What's going on? Why won't you talk to me?"
hmm,
And she was very evasive. So I think that she did. But you're right. The fact is that she knows she can't open up to Billy about this. Certainly speaks a lot more volumes as to. I mean, we all have a tendency to color our past through our own interpretation. But the fact that maybe the memories that he's holding on to aren't even as real as he thinks they are.
right.
Yeah.
There are many times where, especially when we're in love with someone, we put on rose tinted glasses when it comes to uh, what their personalities might actually be.
Hmm.
So for him, he sees Becca as this, perfect, yeah, as this perfect being that he was like, oh yeah, everything that she did was spectacular, and it might be his warped sense of reality because of what happened to her. And because of the fact that he actually knows that Homelander is a bad guy.
Hmm.
you know um it's one of those things where, because he knows Homelander is a bad guy, it heightens in his mind how good Becca must have been.
Right.
He was like, yeah, everyone else is fooled by Homelander, but I know the real him because he violated my very perfect wife, and so he can't think to himself. He's not allowing himself to look at the situation for what it actually is.
Right.
And she had to snap him back to reality.
and this
Well,
scene might actually be a real good bit of foreshadowing of his calling the kid a soup freak and him being Homelander's kid. In the end, it might be Homelander's kid that stands between him and Homelander, Billy Butcher and Homelander facing off and saving Billy Butcher from
oh
himself.
yeah.
Like, he might be the only one who could possibly save him if they get too close. Like, if the kid can step in front of it, you know, um, he might have to, that might help his journey along if he sees that the kid really isn't his father.
Right. And yeah, I think it would have to be something like that. They're totally setting up that type of realization because even as we slowly start seeing Billy connecting emotionally with the rest of the boys and the rest of the team there, um, I think yeah that they've already illustrated how deep that hatred of Soup's rides with him. The only thing that's going to do that is if somebody sacrifices or attempts to sacrifice in order to save him. Might be the only thing. So I think you got a perfect call there, Rob. It does play a lot in that way. All right. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Homelander and his just twisted connection with Doppelganger. We're just over an hour now, so I do want to kind of wrap things up. Real brief, outside of just let's see who in chat. I want to quote this perfectly. Yeah, Mercenary X84. The image of Homelander in lingerie is going to haunt my dreams. I think we all agree with it. There is so much wrong with that shot. But all of that, I mean, Homelander using Doppelganger as Madeline Stillwell to just sort of boost his own confidence, to then Doppelganger really seeing what maybe Homelander is mostly in love with himself. And then how much did Doppelganger know? I mean, Doppelganger seems like one of those persons that would have known everybody's dark secrets. He was used by everyone. He's just a little freaky pervert in the cabin in the woods.
Yeah, listen, that whole entire situation is just one of the craziest things possible. You know, because when she first shows up on screen, you know, is this a dream of Homelander's? Is she a clone? Is this a flashback? You know, and then, you know, when he's talking, you realize, like, nope, this is not a flashback. This is like the realization, like once you know, he's sitting there like, oh my god, and I was like, wait, what the hell's happening?
Oh yeah.
And then you see, you know, the turn. It was like, oh my god, this is absolutely sick and twisted. It on so many levels. Like, what the hell? He's got this guy cooped up in a cabin in the woods. I mean, because obviously there's no way that Doppelganger is running around in regular society, right, where, you know, Homelander is going to allow anyone to know that this is happening.
Right.
So, yeah, just wow.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. If you want to see the internal mental degrade of Homelander, it's all right there. Rob, what'd you feel about that? Did that give you that good warm feeling inside?
Well, I'm surprised that I didn't figure it out that it was Doppelganger the whole time. At first I thought he was like hallucinating, maybe.
Right.
But then once I realized that it's probably not a hallucination, I just started thinking about this. He's got this his regret. This is his place to go and pretend that he didn't do what he did. And she was the one who always consoled him. She was the mother figure / lover / whatever. Right. And I just, you know, I gotta say, Elizabeth Shue was my very first celebrity crush.
Sure. Adventures in Babysitting was.
So I was pretty distracted by her in a negligee. My brain kind of went somewhere else. Like 12-year-old me was like, and I think that I just I didn't even when she became Doppelganger, I was more like ripped out of it, like, no, she's got to change back, not for Homelander, but for me.
See, you need to make the show personal. I love it.
Yeah, so it's just so sick and twisted, and it just shows his complete. He's completely. He's just this close to just being completely cracking up and going complete, you know, fascist evil Superman. I'm going to just burn everything to the ground. I'm going to just take my son and we're going to rule like, a couple of, evil Sith lords over this whole place. And it's, I think we're going to see something similar to that right at the end of this season. I think it's going to be between him and Vought in the end. And I don't know. It's just so messed up.
Well, I mean, again, the show is beautiful in its depiction of what people with real, true power, where they would go, and it certainly is painting a beautiful pictures of betrayal and backstabbing. And I mean, you've got he's doing this with Vought. We got Stormfront playing against the crowds that she's fighting with Vought to try and get something done. In the meantime, she's just orchestrating a bunch of warriors to back behind her. Again, just focused on the obsessed fans, the ones that will battle for you. Don't worry about pleasing anyone, which would be awesome. Even if Homelander loses some fans, the ones that he maintains are even more dedicated to him. Then you have two armies that can just bond together between those. So yeah, I really am curious the chess game that they're sort of playing with this, because it's not just exposing Soups at this point. It's not just showing what Vought is after. Everybody has an agenda. And I think it keeps things really interesting and makes it really difficult to guess what the next steps are going to be. So yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap things up for there. Thanks everybody who joined us live in chat. Before we sign off, I do want to let everyone know that we will have an additional guest next week on Fans of the Boys. Mark from Enchantment of Eternity is going to be joining us. We'll have a 4-quadrant discussion in effect going on. Really look forward to that. So yeah, next week's show, again, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 Central, 9 Eastern, even though I often keep forgetting that it's not 10 Eastern. My bad. Anyway, Don, any last words, and where can people find you?
Listen, as always, thank you for having me here. Glad to be part of the panel. You can find me here. Trust me, don't even think about looking for me anywhere else on YouTube at this particular moment in time. Find me here Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock West Coast, and 8 o'clock Central for my man Rob there. Yeah, man, it just happy to be doing this. Thank you as always, Darren. Rob, take it away.
Yeah, no, it's great to keep doing this. I can't wait to keep doing as many of these as we can. This is one of the highlights of my week, and continuing to be in the future. You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun, on my channel Smirking Gun Reviews, where we're doing old S.H.I.E.L.D. new reviews, where we cover old episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but these are all reviews that I've never done before. Lovecraft Country on Sundays, comic book reviews, and whatever I just kind of feel like doing. And then on Twitch, it's Smirking Gun Plays, where we're playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Outer Worlds.
Excellent. And of course, I'm D. This is my channel here, where we're doing Fans of the Boys, the Fandalorians, coming up next month. And of course, we will be returning to Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. season reviews starting in November with season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Big thanks to everybody that joined us live in the chat. Frank, Mercenary X84, Rena, and Envy, who just joined us here at the end. Hey there, Envy. Sorry, we'll get you with the whole rest of the show next time. Thank you again, everybody. I'm D, and I'm out. We'll catch you all next week. Bye-bye.